The video opens with the introduction of a Fort Vancouver volunteer. He is dressed as a blacksmith and will serve as the video's narrator. His name is Mac Delamata. He wears 1840s Arab blacksmith attire, which consists of a bright red button-up shirt, a brown vest, a similarly brown leather apron, and a patterned red cravat. He also wears a black, white, and red checkered hat. He has a full brown beard, too. Behind him, light coming from a large brick fireplace reveals his soot-covered and tool-filled workplace. Intermittently throughout this video, still images are shown briefly. Delamata also demonstrates an arrangement of blacksmith practices. Each of these will be described briefly.
Hi there, welcome to the Blacksmith Shop. My name is Matt Delamata. I am one of the volunteer blacksmiths here at Fort Vancouver National Historic Site. In here we probably do 1845 to 1846 blacksmithing, or 1840s blacksmithing.
In the first shot of this series of demonstrative clips, Delamata is seen building his brick fire and heating up a rod of iron. To grow the fire, he repeatedly pulls a chain from a fireplace bellow hanging from the ceiling. Each time he pulls, a tube filled with air comes down from the contraction and stimulates the fire with oxygen. With a large wrench-like tool in hand, Delamata drives a small metal rod into the coal at the base of the growing fire. The second shot shows Delamata pounding the glowing hot rod into a hook. This time, one hand is focused on keeping the rod, held by a wrench, on the anvil, and the other is busy shaping it with a square-headed hammer. As he works, Delamata rotates the hot metal in order to create the shape of the hook. The third shot focuses on a wrench clamping a finished dark metal S-hook. Small wisps of smoke creeping out from the curves of the hook display its heat.
Which is during the height of the Hudson's Bay time period here. Primarily what a blacksmith does is he works, historically he works the black metals. Blacksmiths made everything, but they made it all out of iron. Now one of the things they do here on a daily basis is I'll manufacture things the fort might need. That could be anything from simple hooks to extra nails. The carpenter shop will bring over projects sometimes. And even sometimes some rangers will walk in and ask us to make parts for the fort itself or have us help identify some stuff.
In these next two video snippets, the first shot shows a close-up of a metal rack of large, black, wrench-like tools, with very long handles. In the background, a brick wall and the bottom half of Delamata's body can be seen, recognizable by the leather apron shown earlier. The second clip briefly displays a close-up image of a trade axe head, a triangular-shaped blade attached to a wooden handle. It looks very similar to a modern-day hatchet. The blade is shown resting on a stump that appears well-worn as a surface for cutting wood.
That's where the fun really happens. Now, one of the most popular items we made here, aside from beaver traps, parts, components, and chains, were trade axe heads. Now, we made what's called a round pole trade axe head. Hudson's Bay Company made them all over the world. They were everywhere. Now, out here, though, we would make them. There are some examples that still survive today in museums and in private collections.
Delamata's hands are shown working with a hammer on a glowing hot metal hook, with the hook atop an anvil. The camera then moves from his working hands, up his arms and torso, to his concentrated face. He is wearing safety goggles. The second shot in this sequence pans across a wooden table full of various aged and rusty silverware and tools, which have been neatly organized. The table shows an assortment of spoons, shovels, spatulas, knives, hammers, and tongs.
When we open up the shop in the morning, we'll have a lot of visitors come in, such as you guys. Come in and we'll show you demonstrations, we'll show you all kinds of other stuff. But we spend a lot of our time devoting to trying remaking a lot of the historical items that were made here in the 1800s, so we can better understand how they were made. The reason why they were made is because they were a necessity. You didn't have a Home Depot or Lowe's right next door. You had to actually go out, and if you didn't have a tool, build it or get it. That's why sometimes the blacksmiths are referred to as a master tool maker. One of the things that I've been asked to tell you guys about today is how we made objects, how we make them.
The first shot in this series of three shows Delamata holding one end of a thin iron rod, with the other end glowing so hot it has turned from black to orange. Delamata then is shown shaping a long iron rod into a curved hook. This time, the shot is taken from farther away and the grand fireplace can be seen in the background. The fireplace is lined with tools. The third shot in this sequence demonstrates a different way to mold metal. This time, Delamata uses two hammers. With one hammer, he holds the metal onto the anvil, and with the other, he strikes the first hammer. This results in a flat disc-shaped piece of metal rather than a sharp hook as in previous scenes.
Now, we start off usually with a raw bar form. Now, we had many varieties of steel showing up, about 60, if I remember correctly. We'd have anywhere from 1/8 size round all the way up to massive chunks showing up. And we would use them in the forge here to make just about anything you can imagine. One question I get asked quite a bit about is whether or not we got paid well. Now, believe it or not, to be a blacksmith in the 1800s, that was a lot of work. Usually you'd start off learning about the time you were about a little older than you guys. Be about 11 or 12, maybe even 13. You'd start training under a master smith. Now, the master smith, if you were lucky, you got a good master smith. The way the guild system was set up and the apprenticeship program was set up in the 1800s, in theory, was really good. You would start off at, between the ages of 10 to 13, and you would go and you'd learn how to be a blacksmith. Now, once you learn the techniques, it'd take you anywhere from about 6 to 10 or 12 years. You're in your mid-20s usually by the time you were called a journeyman smith. Now, as a journeyman smith, you would go and you would take your tools and you go on a journey.
Delamata is first shown, in profile, building up his fire with the same fireplace bellows system described before. The camera pans from his hand pulling the bellows chain down to the blazing flames of the fire. When he pulls the chain's triangular handle, he does it with his left hand. He starts above his head and pulls the chain down to his shoulder level, pumping it several times in just a few seconds. The second shot of this sequence zooms in on the bellow itself. The contraption shown consists of two large wooden and teardrop-shaped panels that are arranged parallel to each other. A large piece of leather-like fabric connects the panels. The bottom board moves up and down as the chain is pulled. This allows the bellow to trap and pump out air. A pipe protrudes from the main body and guides the collected air to the fire below. The third shot switches back to Delamata building the fire again. This time, he is shown from a different angle, from the front instead of the side. The camera pans down from Delamata's face to the fire below.
You spent most of your time learning how to make the tools, learning how to do the trade from your mastersmith, but you would journey away from him with your tools. All the blacksmiths we had out here were either mastersmiths or journeyman smiths, and they're all very skilled. Some were skilled in certain ways, some were skilled in other ways, but each one of them had to be able to manufacture everything the Hudson's Bay Company needed, anywhere between 20 or 30 pounds per year. Now, as we would go and we'd manufacture these goods, a lot of people say, where'd the money go? How'd you get paid? Well, we didn't. What they would do is they'd keep an account of how much money we'd earned per year. And every time we needed something, like say I wanted to buy a fancy hat or a cravat, I would have to go ahead and go to the company store where I'd buy my goods. Instead of paying, they would write it down on my account. Now, once I finished my contract here, most blacksmiths usually carry anywhere between a 3 to 10 year contract. Once we left the employment of the Hudson's Bay Company, we would head back to England where we get paid, or another major port where they actually had currency. But we never saw our pay until we got done with our contract. Now, once we finished, we didn't just get our money. Our accounts had to be settled first. Now, if I owed more money than I made, well, my contract would be extended until it was paid off. But it wasn't all that bad. You see, they had to convince us blacksmiths to leave England or leave a larger city where we had more amenities to come out here in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we were thousands of miles from anything. So what they would do is they'd give us a contract. The contract stated that we got 2 changes of clothes per year, fresh fruits and vegetables once a week when in season. But more importantly, we got paid good. We got really good. But the food was one thing that was, I've been told, the food is one thing that really got a lot of the blacksmiths out here. Fresh fruits and vegetables, usually potatoes or some salted venison, but it was still fresh. And that was important, especially if you're living in a city.
Delamata shapes a fiery hot piece of metal into a ring. To accomplish this, he loops the rod around the cone-shaped side of the anvil and then hammers it to match the curves. He further perfects its shape by moving it from the cone and onto the flat base of the anvil. His continual hammering sends fireworks of sparks into the air.
I've had a teacher ask me before, what was the importance of the metals out here? You can make things out of chert, you can make things out of rock. See, metal didn't wear down. Chert, copper, iron, they're all soft. But when you had something like this hammer made out of steel, this won't wear down easily. Now, we didn't just trade steel with just English settlers or fur trappers. We traded with everybody. Hudson's Bay Company traded with the American settlers, missionaries, Native American tribes, anybody who was traveling through, even Americans that were traveling through by boat. Now, the reason why trade was so important on that, now, the Native Americans, they had many skills that we today still don't have. We can't master them. But the one thing we could do as blacksmiths is we could make trade axe heads. Now, trade axe heads, even knives and things of that nature, those are versatile tools that you wanted to have in the wilderness. Anything that you guys are curious to know about or you want to know more about, please don't hesitate. Contact the Park Service, look at the fort's website, look at the National Parks website, and research. Don't be afraid. Go out and learn whatever you want to learn about blacksmithing. But I do stress this. Please be safe, be careful, wear safety goggles, and thank you guys very much again for showing up and enjoying this video.